Look at the kicks. Look at the kicks. Look at the kicks. Look at the kicks.
Welcome to the sneaker closet where we talk the flyest kicks. Find out when they're about to drop and find out what the value is. Matt and Johnny going in. Make sure you're tuning in. Every week they talking sneaks, a new pair that I gotta get. Welcome to the sneaker closet where we talk the flyest kicks. Find out when they're about to drop and find out what the value is. Matt and Johnny going in. Make sure you're tuning in. Every week they talking sneaks, a new pair that I gotta get.
Welcome back to the closet. I'm your host, Matt Roach, here with my trusty co-host and bald friend who's wearing a cap today, Johnny Pena. What up, kid?
Man, listen, if they don't tell you that most Latino men go bald by the age of like 24, I'm not 24 anymore. I wish I was, but by the age of 24, they'd be lying to you. But I'm the prime example of that. That's why I'm wearing a cap today. So.
It's shiny. I need to come over there with that sapphire and just smooth that out. Yeah, get that. But today's a cool episode. We honestly don't do these very often, but we got a special guest. And what's cool, I love it when my hobbies of technology and sneakers come together. It's a beautiful thing. It's that as the people in the game, that's that synergistic integration with those LinkedIn words.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's a synergistic integration.
Put that on my resume one
love
time.
that. So
Yeah,
we
what
are
was the score
here.
on the SAT, bro?
Probably not high enough. We got our guy Beemo from Tradeblock here. Beemo, welcome to the pod, my man. Glad to
Man,
have you.
Appreciate you guys having me. It's an honor to be here. Y'all are dope, so I'm sure it's gonna be a ton of fun. I'm excited.
Yeah. So for anybody that doesn't know, Beemo is one of the founders of Tradeblock. Tradeblock is just like on fire right now. I've seen it like multiple places, and then we talked to you guys, and I was like, yeah, we definitely need to collaborate. Like, it's love what you guys are doing. So before you hear me ramble, I want my guy to just jump in and just give us that lowdown on what is, for anybody who doesn't know, what is the system.
So, how can I do this succinctly? Because I'm sure we'll get into all the details. Basically, me and my co-founders, we've been sneakerheads for a long time, and for anybody who's a sneakerhead and has been there since the OG days, like it was always buy, sell, and trade. Like you would go to meetups, and trading was always a fundamental piece of that bigger equation. So actually, it was something we talked about back in 2010. My co-founder Tony is basically like, if y'all will ever watch Stump the Schwab, he's like the Stump the Schwab level sports knowledge guy.
Love it.
And so he got really into ESPN's Trade Machine, which is still a thing, where you can like go and basically pretend you're a GM of a team and come up with different potential trades, and it'll basically tell you, how likely is this to go through. So one day he was like, yo, wouldn't it be crazy like if we could apply the trade machine but like to sneakers, and to actually swap sneakers with other people? And we geeked out on it for a little bit, but at the time it was we're in high school, so it's like all we really care about is like hooping and girls, and like making a little bit of money working at Foot Locker, and Finish Line is where I was at. So we kind of just kind of like threw it on the shelf, and didn't think about it for a couple of years. And then we just basically started to see, StockX jumped on the scene, Goat jumped on the scene, and like overnight, those guys went gangbusters. And so we watched them grow for a couple of years, and then finally we were like, look, if nobody is going to do this trading thing, like we owe it to ourselves to at least try and see if there's something there. So we launched the Instagram page. I introduced them to the concept of the MVP, minimum viable product. I was like, we're not about to spend $50,000 to build an app until we could show that people will actually use it, will actually trade, and will actually pay for it. So we started an Instagram page, did some giveaways, built up a couple thousand followers. And then one day we said, all right, entry for this giveaway, send us 3 shoes you have that you'd be willing to trade. And then actually just manually followed up. I think it was like 430 people. We DM'd them all back and said, yo, appreciate you. Like, can you send us a couple shoes that you'd be looking for? And that was the beginning of our database. And then, for anybody who's an Excel head out there and about VLOOKUPs, basically started doing VLOOKUPs, and like, lo and behold, there was some matches, and we were like, oh shit, we got something. Yeah. So, honestly, up front, we were literally brokering trades in the DMs, playing middleman, going back and forth. And then obviously there was some finessing involved, because like people were like, we don't know you guys. Like, this is a dope idea, but like, can I really trust you to be the middleman?
Yeah.
But we finally found a guy, AJ. Some of you guys might know him, Ty. But basically, a guy who had some established reputation in the sneaker community. We met him at a sneaker con, so we're able to build like a real relationship with him. And he was like, "Yeah, bro, I'll try this." And so our very first trade was with him. And what was it? He traded. He had the MCA Air Force Ones. What did he trade those joints
Ooh, the
for?
blue ones?
Yeah, traded the MCAs
Those are
for, I want to
crispy.
say, another pair, like a pair of off white ones.
Mm.
But anyways, like crazy trade that he posted to his page, and like floodgates. So like the next few days, we just had dozens of people like coming out of the woodwork, like flooding our DMs unprompted. Like, yo, saw the trade you did for AJ. Like literally, here's 20 shoes in my closet, pictures and everything. Like, what can I turn these into? So yeah, we're like,
That's dope.
okay, we got something. So ended up doing, I think, about 25 to 30 trades manually via Instagram. Started off testing a price point. We did the first couple for free, and then we set a price point of $25, and actually moved that up, $5 every time we close a couple trades to see kind of where people backed out, if you will. But that was the origin story, man. And yeah, when we saw that go gangbusters, and people were happy to pay, and not only that, but just the experience, I think, was one of the dopest things, because like people wanted to show other people that they were doing this. This wasn't planned, but now it's an intentional part of our strategy. Like that idea of, man, I just got an offer and I'm not sure what to do. Like, let me poll the audience. Like people just started screenshotting them joints and throwing them on Instagram stories and throwing them in their Facebook groups. And then everybody would be like, I'll tell you my opinion in a second, but like, what the hell app are you using to do this? So yeah, man, that's really where it started, and just been going crazy ever since then.
That's pretty crazy. So essentially,
Crazy.
so what people do is they create an account. Now, is it a subscription service? How does somebody kind of get into this, get started with your app?
Yeah, so free to use. You just sign up, create an account, and then basically you start off by building a closet and a wish list. So what do you have, and what do you want? And then on Tradeblock, basically everybody's curating a public profile. So I can go, find you, Matt Roach, and look through your entire collection. And if there's something in there I want, select it, and then it drops me into my own closet and says, okay, what do you want to offer for his Sakai's, let's say. Pick shoes from
Yeah.
your own closet, and then you can also add cash or ask the other person for cash, to try to balance the market value a little bit, and then shoots off to you, and you get a notification that says you have an offer, and then you've got the opportunity to decline it, accept it, but you can also counter it, right? So if you're like, I kind of
Yeah.
like this, but maybe I want a different shoe from you, or maybe I think you need to add a little bit more cash, edit the deal, bounce it back to me, and then that's the negotiation side of things. And then the other thing that helps
That's awesome.
facilitate trades is we actually identify people who want your kicks. So like, let's say I'm trying to get a pair of
That's nice.
off-white fives. When I search for that, one, it'll tell me everybody who has them and everybody who wants them. So if I'm trying to move them, I can also immediately be like, all right, these people all want them. But when you pull up those collector lists, it's prioritized by how many of the kicks in your closet are on this person's wish list. So the person at the top of the list is going to likely be the best trade partner, because okay, there's maybe 2 or 3 shoes that I own that this person is looking for.
I think that's I think that's so fire, right? Because when we were talking about it and just seeing like the heavy movement that you guys have with just the whole community and you guys continuing to grow, which I love to see, is I was like, let me try this real quick because I have a follower on my Instagram that always posts like his trades. He's like, what do you guys think? Is this a good trade? And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, what is this? So I downloaded the app and I went through it and I was just like, yo, this is fire. I was like, I have my wish list. These are the shoes that I want. This is my closet. Yo, I have X, Y, and Z. Let me see what type of shoe I want. And lo and behold, it's funny that you say the Off-White 5 because that's the number one shoe that is always popping up on my list for people who have it on their wish list. And I have a pair. So I'm like, do I really want to get rid of it? Do I really want to,
The
stay with
sale
it?
or the Muslin joints?
Just the sale. The sale. And
Bro, so crazy enough, that's one of the top traded shoes on the platform. So our top five is like mostly like GR1s. So the mochas are far and away the number one traded thing. But I think the last time I checked, those Off-White 5 sales have been, they're like the number three most traded shoe on the platform. I actually got a pair and traded them immediately for the Union 4s, the Off Noirs. But it's been crazy because it's like,
whoa,
a little bit more of a heater shoe, but not to
yeah,
interrupt you, but like I'm a data nerd too. And
no,
so
you
one of
good.
the things that fascinates me is like starting to look at these trends of like, okay, sure, the market says this shoe is worth $600, but it seems like more than anything, people are trying to move that joint. If you compare that to the black pair, the muslin
Yeah,
pair, nobody comes off of those. Like I've been hunting those for months and I haven't been able to close a deal. So like there's a whole aspect of this too,
people
which is
want
like,
like,
yeah, I was just saying, like, understanding the way that people actually engage with the goods, because it's like, all right, the market says this is worth 600, but are people actively targeting it, or are people actively getting rid of it? And also, like, based on your collection, like what you have and your preferences, are you more likely to, like, let's say, be willing to offer more value than the market says you should for this shoe? Or like for me, if I'm trading for Yeezy, no knock to Kanye or Wex, but like I'm not a big Yeezy fan, so I'm always going to be willing to trade a Yeezy for something that's worth less if it's something I really want.
no, definitely. I think when it comes down to it, that's a good aspect. And like, a lot of people, I've seen insane trades where people are asking for buku amount of pairs for just one pair. And obviously, like, it's give and take, right? You can either accept it or you're just like, this person's crazy, which I think is pretty dope. Like, you don't finalize anything until you actually confirm that trade, right? Which I think is
Absolutely.
super fire. What I also look at is, the market where everyone has one of the same shoe but they're looking for a particular size. I think that's pretty dope, just being able to put the shoes in your closet and be like, I own this shoe and I know what shoe I want on my wish list. Let me see who has it, right? So I think that,
Exactly. Yeah.
for
People actually do a
me,
lot of size swaps too, to
yeah,
your point. Like the day after the drop, it's like, oh, I got an 11. Who's got a 10 and a half? Like that's the
right.
number one trades we see after a big release.
For me, I think that's pretty huge, at least for from a sneakerhead perspective. Just like, growing up not having the type of collection that we have now, to owning maybe one or two pair of shoes, and we had to not literally fight for it, but actually, like, we had to mow the lawn, we had to do all different types of things just to have that money to get a favorite pair of shoes that we have. And now we have an app where we can just trade off and be like, okay, I can do off with these. Let me get something that I've been wanting to hold in my hand and put on my feet and walk out the door with. I think the trading aspect is definitely that middle ground that was missing. A question for you is, how do you go about confirming the trade after the trade is confirmed and somebody throws a cash offer? How does that fluctuate? What are the fees looking like, and what is the final trade after all fees are said and done?
Yeah, most def. I'm gonna bookmark that real quick because I want to just touch on something you said. Like
Yeah.
your point about, you didn't say it in these words, but like access, I think was one of the things we were most passionate about, because it was like you used to be able to get like, bro, some of these dunks and stuff that go for $300-400 today, like those joints were sitting on the shelves at Finish Line and Foot Locker just a
How
couple of
many
years
times
ago,
have I
right?
said that?
Like
Johnny knows
it's
I
nuts,
love dunks. I
absolutely
I sold a
nuts.
bunch of them for super profit because I just had like DS stuff sitting here, and I was like, I paid like $65 for these, and I sold them for like 400
Yeah,
bucks. I was like,
these were
I
on
was like,
sale.
it'll go around again. They'll be on a clearance rack in like 5 years. I'll just rebuy them again. Like,
Yeah, but
great old
so
old heads know that.
oh, facts,
Crazy.
super facts. And so I think we realized like, man, there's a ton of people who love, like who love this space as collectors, right? Like they approach it almost like collecting art or collecting whatever else you're into. And, even 5 years ago and definitely 10 years ago, like, yeah, there was stuff that was harder to get, but if you were willing to put the work in, you could typically get it. And it was more about finding it as opposed to like spending a rent check to get it, right? And so we're like, man, there's so many
Yeah.
people who are in love with sneakers and in love with this space, but who are like more and more basically getting priced out. Where it's like, look, if I don't hit for retail, like I can't justify spending that amount of cash. But what everybody has is like closets full of kicks, like stuff you acquired years and years ago, often like, man, I forgot I even had those joints. And so we're like, man, if we can, our tagline is kicks is currency. Like if we can turn the sneakers themselves into a form of currency, that's a way for somebody who's just an avid collector, but maybe not somebody who's, cutting the biggest check every couple of weeks to get their hands on that stuff. So that's something we're super passionate about too. But sorry, Johnny, to answer your question. So our fee structure is basically we do a flat fee. So it was $40. Right now, it's actually $25. We reduced it, basically doing a summer, like get right for the summer promotion. So both sides are charged a $25 fee and then $15 for shipping. And then both parties are actually shipping their shoes to us. So we have authentication centers in different parts of the country. And we run what's called what we call a two-factor authentication. So we have our own kind of in-person expert who's doing a physical inspection on the spot. But then we also submit every shoe through a digital check service as well. And so our authenticator who's working at the facility has no idea what the result is of the digital check. And we only pass the shoes if both of them say confidently it's a pass. So, if our guy says it's a pass, but the service says it's a fail, failing it. Vice versa, failing it. There's definitely some cases where like I'm pretty confident we've rejected a real sneaker, but for us, it's like I would much rather reject 10 real sneakers than to let one fake go through. And then to your question about added cash.
That's real.
Yeah, man. I mean, the other part of that's like from a business standpoint, like, do we have to pay more to do that? Like, yeah, of course we have to pay more to do that. But
Right.
we looked at the sort of the environment and like the playing field today, and like, not to knock StockX or GOAT, like I think they've done important and valuable things for the space. If nothing else, just creating some visibility in the price. But like, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff they do that is really, really transactional. And it's just clear, like they don't really give a shit about
trust
you
me,
as a
we
collector.
hate them
Like,
here.
you're just dollar signs, right? So, a big part of our
I can't
thesis is like,
stand StockX.
yeah, I mean, it's a tool, right? And it's like you use it because you have to, like, and because there's not a great alternative often. But our thing
I
was like,
wouldn't.
man,
I
if
wouldn't. We always say I would not take a check from them. I would
oof,
not. They could write me a big old check, and they're the only company I would say no to. They could write me
I
a
love it.
big old diesel check, and I'd be like, "You can take that money and just go kick bricks," because I think you guys are the worst.
That's music to my ears, man, obviously. And it's crazy, like for them to be the biggest company in the space by far, like what you're saying is not an uncommon opinion. Like you'll get that from probably the majority of sneakerheads. It's like, what do you think of StockX, man? F StockX. Like I can't get somebody to respond to my customer service emails. Like I'm a seller. They've been holding
Oh yeah, they don't
10,000 of
care
my
at all.
cash for 3 months. Like they just don't care. And
They
our
grew
thing was
too
like, look,
fast,
if
and they
we
won't
can,
acknowledge it.
they grew too fast, and they're led by people who are not of the culture. And that might seem like a
No.
kind of an intangible point, but like that's the real part about it. Like they're led by a bunch of VCs and kind of like New York money cats. Like none of them were sneakerheads, none of them were going to sneaker cons or any of this shit before they started it, and they still won't show up today because they know they'd get flamed, right? So like, yeah, our thing was like, look, if we can
It's true.
genuinely like try to build a business and a brand that's human centered, right? That's focused on the community. Like we're gonna pull up at every sneaker con. Like I want people to feel like, man, I know Beemo. I see that guy. He responds to me in DMs on Instagram. Like we chopped it up at an event the other day. Like that's the bond we're trying to create. And so with something like authentication, like bro, if we have to pay a little bit more to add that extra peace of mind, that's absolutely worth it. Because like as a sneakerhead myself and for the whole team, like that's the ideal for us. Like what would we want? Somebody going above and beyond to try to make sure that we're legit. And so that's the decision we made, and we'll figure out the business implications on the back end. But I think Johnny, the last part of your question was when cash is involved. So basically, we charge all of it up front. So let's say you added $50 to a deal. We charge it up front, but then we basically hold it in escrow until everything passes authentication. So that other person doesn't get your cash until we've verified that all the shoes in the transaction are legit. And if anything fails, you get a refund, and that added cash goes back to you as well.
That's dope.
I
That is super dope.
feel like I always love it when there's like a business savvy sneakerhead out there because I love the data. Like clearly that's what I do for a living. So it's like I just sit there and just tinker around with numbers all day. Johnny always makes fun of me as being the numbers guy, but it's like there's value to it. Like that's how you like get people together. It's like what do you think StockX is really made out of? Ones and zeros. That's it. Like it's all numbers. It's a database. Like that's all it really
Absolutely.
is. You
And to
know,
give
and
you a
it
little bit
seems
of
like
sneak peek into where we're heading, like, to your point about data, we have the data on what you have, what you want, and also, we can see like what are you actively trying to target and get rid of. Like, there's really not a great reason for us to only let the users go find those matches. So while being a little bit coy about it, like we're definitely cooking some stuff up on the back end with basically like a matchmaking engine. So it's like, hey, y'all don't know each other
that's where
and you
that
might have
money
never
is.
found each other in the app, but like here's a trade that we're pretty confident both of you guys would want to do. So like y'all take it from here.
See, man, see, that's the stuff I love. It's like saying, "Hey, you don't know this, but we want to take that paper from both of you. You don't need to be coy about it. We all want to get money." But it's
Hey,
like,
and
"Yo,
and getting you
you
something
got
you want.
this. Y- Yeah, you want this, and here's my paper in the middle, and I'm gonna take it." Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Everybody wins.
You got
Absolutely.
Beemo, you got my man started up,
Woo.
man. I don't know why you did that, but you got him started up now. Now he's just gonna go off every single time now.
Man,
No,
I'm here
I'll
for it.
let it
I got
slide.
I got I got more gas on the data side of things, but I'll
Woo.
hold that for now because
Woo.
I know you guys
Woo,
I know
stop
you guys
talking
have some
dirty
other
to me.
questions.
Talking dirty over here. My God. You
Did
know
that
that's
guy
what I
say
like.
algorithms? Oh.
Woo. Man, because you know what? Data is money. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of money. So clearly you weren't just chilling. So how did you clearly know your behind the scenes stuff. How did you get to where you are now?
Oof,
What's the story? The Beemo story.
man, existential question.
Yeah.
So, who am I? That I think that was the question that y'all had sent over ahead of time, and I was chewing on that a little bit. And like the short answer is like I, I'm honestly just like a super curious person who loves to learn like about everything, and like who likes to make cool shit for people. I'm a
My
learner,
God, where have
and
you
I'm a
been
and I'm
my
a
whole life, man?
man, learning,
God, this
learning,
guy.
getting ready for this opportunity. So kind of quick backstory. I was born in West Africa in Cameroon. My dad had moved to the States for college. Met my mom in the States, and she was psycho enough to agree to move back to Cameroon after they graduated college. And at the time was planning on living there permanently, but as African countries have a
That is
tendency
a
to
true
do,
day one right there.
man, it's interesting though, because like I asked her about this not too long ago. I was like, "Mom, you're kind of crazy. Like you were just kind of like a white lady from the Midwest and you met this African dude, and we're like, sure, let's go." But she was like, "You have to realize this was the early '70s," and she was like, "If you looked at America at the time, like there was questions about whether that was where you wanted to be." She was like, every year, you had Malcolm X or MLK or Bobby Kennedy, JFK, like major figures being assassinated, all sorts of kind of turmoil, race riots, and then the Reagan era starting in the early '70s. So like, she was like, it was kind of crazy, but like at the same time, not too crazy. But anyways, so I was born over there, but we moved back to the States when I was 2. And I lived in Chicago for a couple of years, and then we finally settled in Houston. So from the time I was like in 3rd grade up through high school graduation, I lived in Southeast Houston. I was a hooper more than anything. I think that's what really got me into shoes was playing ball. And then I spent 2 years playing D1 up at Dartmouth after I graduated, which is a whole nother that's a whole podcast episode if you really want to talk about that. But long story short, Dartmouth was was a bit of a culture shock for me. And then the basketball program itself like just wasn't in a great state. So those 2 years of hooping, like I really just didn't enjoy myself. And I kind of had an epiphany after my sophomore season, like, man, I'm investing so much of my time and energy and like headspace into this thing that's only now bringing me kind of like negative emotions. And I probably would have gone overseas and hooped for a couple of years, but it was never a long-term trajectory for me. And so I decided to hang it up. And I realized like the main reason I came to Dartmouth was to hoop. So like let me actually just go back to Houston and like decide like what the hell I actually want to do with the rest of my college career. Like, I think that was one of the most crucial things I did. So many people are just on autopilot, and you like let that momentum carry you all the way through to your college graduation. And then you're like, oh snap, like I really didn't even think about what I wanted to get out of that. So I think that that 2 years where I was at home and I was just working like was some of the most valuable time that I probably ever had in my life. Because yeah, like one, I realized how much I missed learning, like that intellectual stimulation. um, and so I spent a ton of time really just going on like a self-education journey where I was like, okay, on paper I'm smart, I got good SAT scores, but like I don't know how the money supply works. Like, I don't know why Israel and Palestine have been fighting each other for 150 years. Like, so many fundamental things that kind of underpin why the world is the way that it is today. And so I just started, man, just consuming everything, news, history, a ton of like science and technology stuff. So, like, I got really into like kind of like psychology and brain structure, and then also things like CRISPR-Cas9 and gene editing. And after a couple of weeks of this, I was like, man, I'm filling my head with this stuff, but like, this is only valuable if I share it with other people. So me and a buddy actually launched a news blog called thehigherlearning.com, where what we were doing was really trying to be a bridge for the casual reader who's like maybe knows next to nothing about gene editing. So it's like, man, that sounds cool, but if I try to read the BBC article, like my eyes are going to glaze over and like really it's going to make me feel stupid. So our thing was like, nah, we're going to make you feel smart, but still introduce you to all of these concepts and just break them down in simpler ways that you can understand. So did that for 2 years, and then I went to UT to finish my undergrad. So I was a sociology major, so I finished that, but then I actually added a journalism degree as well, because at the time I was, deep in content creation. And then when I graduated from UT, I was basically applying for all of these kind of classic journalism roles. And I had a buddy who was working at the design program at IBM, and he was like, "Hey man, like I just got added to this team that's like being tasked with like telling stories about design thinking and like how design thinking gets applied," which is basically just the idea of like a human-centered design approach to building products. And IBM was really trying to push that internally, so that they could more quickly modernize kind of all their products and services. And so he was like, "Yeah, we're building this story team, and like we don't have any storytellers. So like, would you want to come be an intern and like basically like write blog posts and shit about design thinking?" And I was like, "I don't know anything about design thinking or IBM, but like sounds great. You're offering me more as an intern than like any of these other journalism places would have offered me as a full-time employee." So I went to IBM, and man, like I didn't realize what I was missing. Like just being surrounded by people who kind of were design native and product native folks. Like I was into technology, but I had never really seen, the process like that, like going from here's the person we're building for, let's interview them, understand what they want, understand what they hate about the current products out there. Now, how do we translate that actually into a product experience? And how do we take a product that's already live and decide how to prioritize like what bugs to squish and what features to add? And it was just super dope, man. And like I said, I'm a learner. So I just used my ability to create content like as a way to get my foot in the door everywhere. So, I got to work on a ton of stuff for like the AI, like Watson AI stuff. I got to learn and do a bunch of stuff about like our quantum programs. I spent my last year kind of basically leading kind of content strategy for IBM Research. So that's like, 1,500 PhD scientists who are like on the very, very bleeding edge of technology. So yeah, so I just crash course in all things kind of tech, design, and business. And after 3 or 4 years of that, I was hungry to transcend the content role. I was like, all right, yes, I'm good at this, but like I'm good at this because I'm good at understanding what's going on and then communicating what needs to be communicated well, which to me is also sort of the core skill set behind being kind of a good product owner and product leader. So I was looking for opportunities to really own a product within IBM, and it was tough because I didn't have that on my resume. And then the homies, Darren and Tony, hit me up and they were like, "Hey, so that sneaker trading thing we were talking about, like we're thinking about doing that for real. Like, what do you think?" And I was like, like I'm busy. Let me like mentor y'all. Y'all are the homies. I want to see you win. Like, so I'll definitely be there for guidance and support. And I think we had like 2 or 3 calls, and I was like, "All right, fellas, like y'all win. My notebook is full of like wireframe sketches. Like I can't stop myself thinking about this idea. Like I had gone deep into the data rabbit hole that Matt just clearly started falling down. And I was like, this is dope, man. Like this is everything that I wanted. And, you know, I was in a position where I was like, man, if I don't do this now, like, you know, I may not have another opportunity to take a risk like this, if you will. So that is the longer than I'd hoped version, but of who I am and how I got to where I am today.
No, I think when you when you look and reflect on a whole bunch of things that you've done and continue to do and where you started, I think that's a key part of who you are today and the team that you bring around you, right? So your team that you've known, your two boys that you've known for X amount of years, like coming, like not necessarily getting it out the mud, but looking at it, you're like, I want to work for myself. I want to do something that I enjoy doing, right? Like, yeah, we like collecting a check, but we also want to cut the check for ourselves. That's the number one goal, right? So
Absolutely.
I applaud you three tremendously, because what you're doing right now, I it's never been done in this type of atmosphere at all, right? So if you look at it with technology changing over the years, it's just going to get even better. And hear me out on this. I've been coming up with good names lately, as you'll see in our next episode that we
So Johnny's
post.
one for 3,000, and now he's just riding a high over here, like he's just like, what do you think, you're Steve Jobs now? You're like, yes. So I had this one good idea. Like, what are you gonna? Come on now. All right, well, hit me with it. Now I'm
So
interested.
in the IT industry, we don't like to refer to individuals who use um different interfaces that we may, throw
Hmm.
out into the field. We don't like to call them as users. So as a trade blocker, what type of information do you take from trade blockers, whether it be on the app, whether it be from, I'm not sure. I didn't really get to look much into it, but I'm not sure if they get to message you like on the trade block app of like, certain suggestions. But how are you taking that information from trade blockers and then applying it to the UI and just making the app a better interface for more people who are downloading it, or throwing updates out there for people who already have it?
Absolutely. Great question. And I think I love what you said about, you know, the terminology. So we actually have a rule on our team that if you call somebody who uses our platform a user, you got to do 10 push-ups, because there's like, again, I'm a content and a writer guy, and I actually did a whole like 15-minute talk at South by a couple years ago about like how words, the words we use to describe shit, have such a massive impact on how we think about stuff. So if you call somebody a user, your brain basically says number, right? Number in the data set. If you call somebody a person, or, you know, actually the term we use is members, because we're like, you are a member of a community that we're building. It just changes the way you think about everything. And again, you naturally just take a much more human centered approach to whatever it is you're talking about or doing, because you're making sure that you're thinking of people as people. Like, sounds simple, but something that a lot of people don't do. But from a data perspective, I mean, I think we just
Love
we
it.
just try to focus on the stuff that, like, you know, people are kind of publicly offering up. So we don't really look like, we're not gathering your location data. Like, we don't need that. We're not tracking you on other apps. We don't need that. Like, we're just looking at, what do you have? What do you want? And then also, when you're creating trades and negotiating, like, what are you trying to get? What are you trying to give up? For us, that's really all we need. And like, to your point about how does that feed the app, it comes out in stuff like I was telling you about, like the wants your kicks label. So like, we want to make sure you know when somebody wants your kicks, and we want to make sure those folks are prioritized when you're looking for trades. And as far as messaging goes, there is no messaging right now. Dot dot dot. But our product roadmap is very robust.
Coming soon.
Yeah.
Love it.
Actually, one of the things we just
Man,
launched,
I
which
have
is a
like,
game changer, was pricing visibility and blocking of lowball offers. So like, the number one pain point we had up front was like, man, you know, folks in the sneaker space, like people are wilding. No, bro, I'm not trading you my off-whites for some used Air Force Ones. In what world would you think this would happen? And so like people were like, man, I love
I
this
don't need no
idea.
Supreme Air Force Ones, bro.
Yeah, man, but they were just like
Yeah.
people are just wasting my time with trades that are absurd. This latest release, I think we launched it like last Thursday, like a week ago. So now you can basically see a range of market prices for every shoe. So we basically look across, all of the major marketplaces. Because the other thing we didn't want to do is say this shoe is worth $500. No, it's not. It goes for $500 on one marketplace, but the market says it's worth anywhere from 500 to 560, right? Like there's always some wiggle room. But what we're also doing is we're basically not allowing you to send an offer where the value you're giving up is less than 70% of the value you're looking for. And like some people kind of felt some kind of way about that. And I get it, because they're like, well, who are you guys to be the overlords of market price? And it's like, look, we gave you plenty of room. I think 30% is more than enough to play with. And like if you're trying to justify like sending somebody an offer where you're like basically giving up half of what you're asking for, like sorry to say this, but like you're part of the problem.
So, do you have any functionality that you're working on or have already built in where you can have the user set the minimum they'll take? So they can send it and it'll auto reject the offers? Did I just blow your
we have
mind? I
a
hope so.
it's hard to blow my mind these days, Matt, but I love where your head is at. And my answer
I
is what I
told you
said
got him,
earlier.
Beemo. You got him started, brother. You got him started. I'm telling you.
I love it. I love it. Honestly, we like internally sometimes we talk about it kind of as like we call it the poison. Like that was the word that I used to my co-founders, like as to why I joined. I was like, our first conversation, like I was poisoned and I couldn't stop thinking about all of the opportunities and the different avenues and the different ways that you could go. Like once you get the basics, it's impossible to stop yourself from thinking about all of that stuff. Um, but my answer to
I
you,
already got
Matt,
a
is my
notebook filled over
my
here.
send me a picture. My same coy answer, which is we have a very robust product roadmap. So that's definitely something that we're thinking about, and even allowing you to say, hey, look, this shoe is a grail. Like I'm not going to trade it, even if the market balance is there. Like even if you're giving me a little bit of a come up, like I'm not trying to turn my grail shoe into 3 GRs. So but there may be,
Yeah.
let's say, 4 or 5 grails that you would consider. So something we're thinking about is like actually allowing you to say like, don't send me any offers on these shoes unless it includes this, or this sort of thing.
Yeah. I think we all have a couple shoes that we wouldn't let go of no matter what. I mean, I must have at least 3 or 4 that I wouldn't let go for anything.
What's
You
your
know,
number one grail
s-
that you don't have?
that I don't have.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't. I mean, it's hard for me. I'd probably say the Macklemore sixes.
Okay.
I
So
think
those four or
those.
five shoes you said you would never give up. If somebody offered you the Macklemore sixes, would you consider it?
I don't even think there is anybody that has them. I think Macklemore only has the only like 4 pairs, and he gave one to DJ Khaled, and then he gave one to I don't. I think there's like so few pairs.
Hypothetically speaking, Matt. Hypothetically
Right.
speaking, if it was
So
out
your
there.
so your answer is yes.
If DJ Khaled calls me and he's like another one, and then he just like starts talking like DJ Khaled, I mean, I'd consider it maybe, but I don't know. I don't think I would let go of my Red Octobers. I don't think.
No, that's fair.
I
That's
don't know if
fair.
I
I
ever
think
would.
there's certainly some shoes that people I think they're just like nah,
Yeah.
because the combination of like maybe the shoe itself, but also like one of the things that I think is dope is the idea of like sort of the intrinsic value of a shoe to you. Like you
Yeah.
know, one of my favorite shoes that I have is the Colin Kaepernicks. Like they don't go for anything crazy like necessarily, and they made a decent number
Yeah.
of pairs, so it's not the most exclusive thing ever. But like that's just a really meaningful shoe to me because of what Cap did, and because like I love Air Force Ones. Like that was where I started before I was into J's or anything. I was just like all about getting the
I
Air
think
Force
Johnny has those
Ones.
right there.
Yeah, bro. I,
Johnny, you
I
have
had
those,
mine
don't you?
up here, but then I've
I'm telling you, we
rocked them
we on
recently.
the we on the same page, brother. When I tell you an iconic shoe, not you like what you like and you don't like what you don't like, right? But
Exactly.
when it comes to this shoe, like
Yeah, they
it
fire.
it solidifies a lot of things that a lot of people still don't understand to this day, right? I'm not gonna get into too much of
Absolutely.
politics, but
Hmm.
it's a statement shoe and a statement piece for me. Like you have the date there, right? Like
Yep.
you know
So
what that
many
date
great
is.
details too. Yeah,
Like
from a design
it
perspective, like
it may have not been, uh a a Yeezy, a Red October, but for certain individuals in the sneaker community and what Colin Kaepernick did meant a lot to a lot of people. So that's why like these I will never get rid of. I was always told, "Oh, let me get those off you." No, I will never get rid of these because these are a statement piece, at least into my eyes, into your eyes, and into a lot of people's eyes. You know what I mean? So
It's
big
funny
facts. Yeah.
the Red Octobers aren't even my favorite pair though. Like if I could only keep one pair of shoes, it would always be the Space Jams. Like when I was a kid,
Mm,
that changed things for me. That made me want to be a sneakerhead. Like I loved those shoes as a kid. Like and when they finally came out, I got them and I still haven't worn them. They've been sitting in my closet. They're sitting over here for 4 years, 5 years now.
yeah.
Like
Space Jams and the Concords, like two pairs that I still don't have in my collection, but like I, for anybody watching, I'll give you a great deal if you want to offer me some Space Jams or some Concords, because like I just vividly remember those as shoes that I wanted so bad growing up but couldn't get. So I had to settle for the whatever Air Max up tempos or whatever was in my parents' price range. But yeah, like the
yeah.
so
value of a sneaker is not the market value, right? The value of a sneaker is
Yeah,
like market
100%.
value is a part of it, but then it's like, how do you feel about the design? Like, was this a really important shoe to you as a kid? Like, do you have 5 pairs of it randomly? In which case, it's like, yeah, I'll get rid of some of these. There's so much more there than just that raw dollar value, and that's really what we're trying to tap into.
I mean, another thing, and obviously this may be a obvious yes, or it could just be a surprising not yet for me when I ask this question. But you being one of the three to be a founder, having this as a stepping stone and continuing it, even further into whatever other endeavors you put this app into and the team into, do you have your own uh closet and wish list on the app yourself, and where can we follow you so we can look at your closet?
Bro, I better believe it. So I'm just Beems on the app. So Beems. That's my nickname from back in high school when I was hooping. So you can find me at Beems. The other thing you can do, by the way, is you can follow people in the app. So if you come across a dope collection and you're like, man, one, I just want to know like what if this person changes their collection, or like, hey, I think I might get some trades done with this person. You just hit that follow button, and then anytime they add to their closet or their wish list, you get notified. And yeah, bro, I'm a very active user. I have to double check, but I think I still hold the crown for most trades. It's getting harder to hold because in the past month or two, people have both been going nuts. Like, bro, we had a dude do 7 trades in 7 days last month. I'm like, look, man, I'm not gonna be able to hold the
Woo.
crown for much longer, but yeah, I'm an
That guy's
active trader for
cooking. Look at
sure,
him doing those trades. I
bro.
mean, I got some stuff
We have an interview
I
scheduled
gotta
with him
move.
ASAP because I'm like, bro, I need to understand how you're thinking. How did you do 7 in 7 days? That's absurd.
That's some serious coin right there. But like, also you gotta have a big collection too. We got Stephen Willie Beeman over here for anybody who remembers Any Given Sunday back in the day. I feel old saying that. I watched that movie recently. That movie still
Man,
holds for me.
that's a
Al
classic. That's
Pacino and
timeless.
man, oh that is a true OG movie. But so it sounds like you guys are just straight up blowing up. What are you guys at user wise? How's your just growth been? 'Cause I feel like I've seen you guys a lot of places recently, so I can't imagine it must be like crazy right now.
Yeah, especially the past 4 to 6 weeks has been pretty nuts. So going into May, I think we were at, around 16, 17,000 users. We closed May at 30,000, and last
Damn,
check this morning, we're at like 36,000 total users, and
you guys
approaching
are cooking.
170,000 total shoes on the platform. Um, so yeah, man, it's it's going bonkers. I, uh,
That's
Yeah.
I
crazy. So
literally
there's
have
been
a
some
strategy
serious
doc that
trades
I've
going
been
on.
working on. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. My strategy doc is called "Oh shit, we're blowing up faster than we thought," and then it's just here's a bunch of stuff that needs to accelerate or that needs to change or that isn't going to scale effectively. So that's the
You get
headspace
that
I've been in lately.
AWS. You need to get that. You need to get that more bandwidth on AWS is what you need with 170,000 shoes.
Man,
Woo, that's some
Amazon has
serious
definitely
shoes.
been increasing their revenue from trade block lately. That is a fact.
Yeah, I mean they. I feel like they own like most of the internet. I feel like even
Oh,
isn't Netflix even
for
on
sure.
AWS too? Like
Yep,
they're like crazy.
absolutely.
Like the whole internet is on AWS. And for anybody who doesn't know what that is, that's
Yes.
Amazon Web Services. And what you don't know is they're silently taking over the internet. And just like Jeff Bezos, he's just gonna own everything. So
I
one
bet
day,
we're on AWS right now with Zencaster.
yeah, they're definitely on.
So
Yeah,
so be careful what you say.
yeah. Jeff, I love you. Um, don't take my internet away.
Right.
But no, it's
So
crazy.
the last thing, and I mean this will probably be like a big thing for a lot of people, and maybe it's not implemented now, maybe it already is, but it's going to start to grow. But do you see, if you don't already have it, an incentive program of any sort for um trade blockers using the application?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So we've started to basically strategize and put a plan in place, kind of behind the scenes. We were actually wanting to push that loyalty program out this month, but in the conversations we were having in our member research interviews, like it was just clear that there was some other product improvements that were more important to prioritize. So that pricing and visibility and the offer blocking, it was like we gotta knock this out immediately. Like this is what's actually bothering people, and then that ability to communicate.
That was
So
huge.
kind of direct messaging. So we're always trying to prioritize the things that people really want, and like again, listen to the people who use your product. Like very novel thought, but like that's design thinking in a nutshell. But yeah, definitely going to be putting something in place around kind of top trader loyalty, and I may be stealing our thunder a little bit, but we also do what's called a trader exclusive giveaway every month. So if you trade in a given month, you basically automatically get entered in a sneaker giveaway. And this month we're actually going to do two giveaways, but that second one will be at a higher tier. So it'll be a pair of P rods, but you're going to have to do three trades in the month to even be entered in the drawing. But definitely, we're certainly
Those
thinking
are
about
nice.
how do we create a loyalty program where you get some cheaper fees, where maybe you get some free shipping, and just some other perks. And yeah, I think more than anything, we want to be community focused, and so it's like, we want you to feel seen and celebrated. So it's not just about giving you better fees; it's about celebrating you as a collector who's like doing dope stuff.
I just want to be verified. Twitter, Instagram, everybody else just dogs us. How do we get verified on something? I feel like I
Matt,
just
I
want to be
was
verified. I just want to be verified somewhere. Man,
Matt,
everywhere we go.
I was gonna say, Matt, we're gonna gradually move into there and be like, yo, Beemo, I see you got that orange check. I
Yeah, let
mean,
me get
come
that blue
on.
check real quick.
Hey, look, y'all get some trades under your belt. You got my contact now. Hit me when you've done a
Yeah.
couple trades, and I can talk to the leadership team. I know some folks who might be able to help you out with that.
This guy over here, he's like, I got a guy. I got a guy for
Uh-huh.
that.
I
That's
always
Love
got
it,
to
dope.
be like, it's
man.
not me, so don't ask me. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's the great thing about this like podcast. There's nobody that's ever gonna like assume when I walk anywhere. Nobody's ever gonna assume I know sneakers. I'm just a tall, skinny white kid. Nobody's ever gonna be like, "Oh man, he must know sneakers." No, they're just gonna be like, "Yo, look at that suburban dad, real quick. That definitely needs a haircut because he's got that flow." That's what happens when you don't leave the house. You get like that old man flow. I tell you.
I dig
So
it. I dig it.
one ultimate question, and
Mhm.
I like to do this with every guest that we have every so often, is what is one shoe that you wish you could have, that you wanted back in the day and still holds near and dear to your
He
heart?
already said that.
Mhm.
But
He
there
already.
might be another one. You never know.
See, Johnny phases out in the middle of episodes sometimes. Johnny dozes, like he's looking at you, but he's not really looking at you. See, I know. Look at you, John. I know you. I see you.
But if you think about it, as a kid growing up, you didn't really look at the Space Jam, right? So we're talking about it could have been when you were 7, 8 years old, and it held near and dear to your heart. Like a lot of people don't know. With me, like honestly speaking, the Spreewells were my number one shoe, and
Hey,
until
Hey,
this day, the
the
Spreewells
Dadas,
are
baby. You
they're
know, I tried to find
still
them.
they're still the number one shoe for me. Honestly speaking,
yeah,
like
bro. Those
that's what
were
made it
it
for
back
me.
in the day.
Yeah.
You
The
know,
spinners.
so the Space Jams and the Concords for sure. I'm also I'm a really big fan of the OG air raids. Like, you know, they just
Mm.
re-released them.
The ray
I
gun.
think they're downstairs. So the ray guns I copped, but then also the I think it's called like what is it? It's got like the peace sign on there and the kente cloth. Live
Yep.
together, play together, and they released the air raid. They released the Air
Oh,
Force
okay, yeah.
One. I forget. But the original pair
Air
of
raid's a
those
great
air
line.
raids, I think, came out in the early 2000s, and I remember seeing somebody rocking them and being like,
Mhm.
"Bro, those are insane. Those are super insane." So like, I definitely got the
Wild.
re-release, but it's super hard to find the
Those were
originals.
like
So I'd say that's
black and
probably on
white,
there.
weren't they? The OG ones.
Yeah, they're like
I think
a
the OGs
black
were
and
like
black,
black and
so they
white.
have like yeah, they have black, they have like a suede black as well, and then they have like some white hits, but then the kente cloth hits as well on the straps. Um, so
Yeah,
those, and
those were
then
dope.
you talking about the Spreewells actually made me think of one I've been thinking a lot about, which is like the T Mac twos. So like the T Mac twos were the first legit basketball shoes I ever got that made me feel cool. Like I remember getting them in 8th grade, bro. In 7th grade, oh man. Shout out to my parents, man. Bless their heart. But like my dad is African, so if you don't understand culture, very frugal. Yeah, that was basically
Right.
it. Like
Right.
$80 for a shoe that I was already getting this look. Like, huh? For this basic white shoe? I'm like, no, it's not a basic. It's Air Force One, Mom. She's like, but this one looks just like it, and it's $50. Not like I'd rather go to school with no shoes than to wear the knockoff version. You don't understand how this works. But man, they got me a pair of like they looked pretty cool basketball shoes in 7th grade, but they were swoops. Like they were like Cheryl Swoop's shoe. Shout out Cheryl Swoop. She was
Yeah.
cold. I'm
Yep.
from Houston. Like she's dope. But as a 7th grade boy,
Love
rocking
Cheryl.
a woman's like rocking a shoe that was made for a female basketball player was not cool at all. So that was what I was rocking in 7th grade, and I obviously like felt some kind of way about that. And then going into the 8th grade season, man, we were at the mall. I'm sitting there just dejected, like seen 10 shoes I really want. Nah, out of the price range. Nah, out of the price range. Actually, we left the mall. We went to Ross. Any sneakerhead knows Ross, Marshalls, bruh, hit those clearance racks on a regular basis. You can find some crazy steals sometimes. But yeah, we went there like to get
Wow.
clothes for school, and I was already like, man, I'm screwed. I guess I'm gonna just have to wear the Swoops 2.0 this season. And I just happened to see it was the all black T Mac twos with the patent leather that comes over the top, and they were on sale for like $35 in my size. And I was like, Mom, and she was like, oh yeah, 35, like run it. And so man, wore those joints to practice the next day, bro. Yeah, I swore I was T Mac, man. I was on one for sure.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to find another pair of those lately, and it's actually been kind of difficult. So I think to answer your question, Johnny,
They're
besides
actually
all those
back.
other random
They
ones,
just
the
re-released
T
them.
Mac twos, I saw that, but it's now like I got to get the OG. I don't want the re-release. Maybe I'll get both. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't even know if you could find a OG one. I've never seen an OG pair since I had the T Mac one. So my parents like, yeah, it was like a Marshall special. I think I got those for like $25. After like they were on like T Mac threes at that point, but I got the T Mac ones for like $25. And
Mhm.
I was always a couple years behind whatever everybody else had. I was like, yep, you could get this off the clearance rack.
Same.
Um, but no, that's awesome. But I think one final question that I want to ask is if all the stars aligned, where's Tradeblock in 5 years?
Hmm. all the stars aligned, where is Tradeblock in 5 years?
Or if all the blocks align, where's Tradeblock in the
Ooh,
next 5 years?
I see what you did there. I see what you did there. You
Oh,
know, I'll just kind of, I'll speak out loud as I think through this answer. But the first thought that comes to my head is like, we definitely do forward planning because we'd be foolish not to. But I think more than a lot of people, like the way that I approach things is like you have to be constantly ready to course correct. And I think a lot of people, like whether it's in business or like literally just in planning out their lives, like paint themselves into corners and then end up in situations that they really don't want to be in because 5 years ago you convinced yourself that you wanted to do this thing, and like you didn't listen to yourself along the way as other cooler opportunities came up, or as that voice in the back of your mind was like, I don't actually think I like this, right? So, I think my answer is like, I really don't know. This space could be so different a year or two from now. But, I think that the answer I can confidently say is like, hopefully at the center of sneaker culture and the sneaker community. Like I said, our approach is really like this sounds corny, but it's a hearts and minds approach. And I think, if we can win over the people and say, look, we're a brand that's here to serve you. We want to do cool things for you. We want to approach things in a different way, but like ultimately we just want to be, sort of the center of how you connect with this culture and with your passion for this, for this good, like whatever that looks like, that's where we're going to be.
I like it. I like it. So for everybody out there, where can they find you? It sounds like you can find iOS and Android. It's just you just type in just Tradeblock on the search, but give us your spiel of where they can find you
Type in
guys.
Tradeblock, look for the little T logo. That's us. Download the app. Definitely follow us on Instagram too. It's at tradeblock.us, which is also our website. We do a lot of cool stuff through our IG, and you can just get a sense of some of the insane trades that are happening on any given basis or on any given day. Yeah, and then like hit us up. Honestly, like we love talking to people. If that wasn't obvious, and number one question I actually ask people all the time, which I think throws them off, is like, what sucks? Like, what do you hate about Tradeblock? Like, that's the most valuable thing that I can find out at any given point in time. So we don't run from that. Like, we embrace that, and then hopefully we can turn around and like deliver. So
Yeah, and honestly, this is helpful. Few brands really want to come in there and like answer the questions and stuff like that. So we appreciate you taking some time, talk to us, tell us what you're about, and clearly we have an avenue. So if you hate Tradeblock and you want to see things changed, hit up Beemo, hit us up. We'll pass along. I love passing along some bad news. We'll do it. They clearly want to make the best product possible. So we
I've got
appreciate
thick
you
skin.
stopping by. It's pretty great. Johnny, where can everybody find you?
As always, man, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Johnny Sneaks. That's JohnnySneaks. And Trade Blocker Matt, where are we finding you, my brother?
You can find me everywhere at I am Matt Roach. That's the ROACH. And thanks for jumping on and listening. And special shout out to Beemo. Thanks for joining us this week. And we'll catch you guys next week. Peace.
New pairs that I gotta get. Welcome to the sneaker closet. New pairs that I gotta get. Welcome to the sneaker closet. New pairs that I gotta get. Welcome to the sneaker closet. New pairs that I gotta get. Welcome to the sneaker closet.